Sorry,
Interesting to note that cannabis is dose dependent, and if you choose the right cannabis, I like to have people that have a conversation with cannabis. With pharmaceuticals, they just yell at you, right? They just push you around. Because when I was on fentanyl, I was just legally high for a year and a half. Pharmaceutically, I was just legally high. But what they've proven about cannabis is it actually repairs the damage done after brain injury, after concussion. So you want to start at a very, very low dose. Whatever cannabis you're taking, you better start very, very small to find out if you're okay with that dosing. What you never want to do is never want to use a high THC product and drive, okay? Anytime you start using cannabis, don't drive. Don't drive for the whole day, right? It all depends on I love teaching people how to use layered cannabis, like the tincture and the Rick Simpson oil and the sore muscle rub and how to make green pills. You can take cannabis and you can cut them with an herb scissors and put them in a little jar and mess them up and fill number 3 gelatin capsules with them. You know, number 3 they're small, right? And fill those with the raw cannabis flower. What a fantastic form of medicine, because you've just turned it into a super edible. There's nothing in between you and the medicine. You don't heat it, you don't do anything to it, you take it as a pill. And I would suggest that if you're going to try cannabis, you should do that. Or there's a million ways to try cannabis. Max, you sleep really, really well using the Rick Simpson oil, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Sleep excellent.
When people are going through a traumatic, can I share a little bit of your story?
Sure.
Okay, leukemia. Max got leukemia, and the worst thing you can have when you have leukemia is you can't sleep and you're all in pain, right? I can guarantee you that with Rick Simpson oil, he will not suffer all through his cancer treatment. And cancer is not going to take his life, because it's a proven fact that Rick Simpson oil, anybody heard of Rick Simpson oil, by the way? Okay, let me explain this. Rick Simpson is a famous Canadian that got cancer, and he regurgitated a 5,000-year-old recipe. And here's the recipe. You take a whole bunch of cannabis flowers, decarboxylated, that's been cut and dried, and you soak them in a really high alcohol content, like an Everclear, for about 6 or 7 weeks. And you agitate them, and the alcohol absorbs the medicine. Then you take that out, and you put it in really big vats, like a slow cooker, and you render it down to the consistency of really thick balsamic vinegar. Yes? By the time it gets to you, that stuff is rocket fuel. That's 80%, 90% THC. But I will tell you that it cuts through pain like you've never seen. Just a small amount. I was counseling someone last week, and I gave this person half a drop. You can't even see between my fingers. And she didn't have pain for 3 days. She was a little woozy. Thank goodness I was with her. It was a high THC product. But see, there's a way for everybody to use cannabis to cut through chronic pain, cut through PTSD. Oh, I've got to tell you about PTSD. Okay, it's really, really important that you understand how cannabis works with PTSD. Cannabis, when the THC hits your brain, what it does is it locks in the alpha brainwave frequency. Yes? You're familiar with the alpha brainwave frequency? This is the brainwave frequency where we all relax. Okay? But cannabis takes you there. It doesn't ask your permission, it just takes you there. And people that are control freaks, they have a little bit of an issue with that, and they get paranoid. It depends on the dose. PTSD people continually play those videos, like first responders, they could have gotten that kid 30 seconds earlier, they could have saved them, that kind of stuff, right? And when they go to bed, they're accessing that part of their memory that continually plays those videos. That's why it keeps PTSD alive. When you vape, and only when you vape cannabis, it hits your mind and it takes you down to a level where you're using the alpha, and you are not allowed access to those videos. You are not allowed access to that. You are not allowed access tomorrow or yesterday. It slows time down, and it stops PTSD in its tracks for a couple of hours. Now, imagine, PTSD person, they want to get to sleep, right? Hit the vaporizer just before they go to bed, boom. They can go to sleep and enjoy 4, 6, even 8 hours of sleep uninterrupted. Another great thing about cannabis is this. Sleep apnea. Anybody got sleep apnea? Here? couple of people, my wife does, if you have severe sleep apnea, the doctor's going to have a very serious conversation with her. He or she is going to say, be careful how much alcohol you drink because you have severe sleep apnea. And then when you come home and you go to bed, there's a good possibility you won't wake up. It's because the sleep apnea opens the door, and then it opens the door to alcohol, where alcohol has direct access to your sleep center. There's nothing to stop it. Cannabis, when taken, will never give you direct access to your sleep center. It can't. It's just like PTSD. You do not have access to this part of your computer in your mind. It can't kill you. If you take too much THC, you go to sleep, but you always wake up. That's the exciting part about THC. So from the ground level, if you want to try marijuana, I would suggest try a sore muscle rub first. Go easy. Just take something safe, but also be careful, because if it's got live cannabis in it, don't drive for about 4 hours, because a tiny little bit of that cannabis is going to find its way into your bloodstream.
Don't cross the border.
Yeah, don't ever cross the border with a sore muscle rub, because it's a foreign country, yeah. So any other, yes?
I guess I'm a little confused because at the beginning of the presentation, I kind of understood that medical cannabis was totally different than the THC part. So, but now with you talking, it sounds like all of it has a bit of THC in it.
Yes, this is very important. Medical cannabis works best when it has 50% THC and 50% CBD, cannabidiol. That's what they call the entourage effect. For medical cannabis to be called medical cannabis, it must have some CBD in it, or I won't work with it, right? And it can be as high as 90%. I use 90% Rick Simpson oil, but I don't use a lot of it. I use half a drop a day. No, a drop a day, 2 half a drops, right? But that's all you need, right? But
the THC part, that's the part that makes you high.
oh, absolutely, it can make you loopy.
So whenever you take any of the medical, you still will get a little bit of high.
Here's the interesting part. If you have 50% CBD and 50% THC, the CBD actually anchors the high. And if you're a chronic pain sufferer, the chronic pain also helps to anchor the high. So can you get euphoric? Absolutely. I get slightly euphoric every time I vape. Now let me explain that. You know, when you've been out to the keg and you've had a really nice dinner and you're with friends and family and you've had a glass of wine and maybe another glass of wine, right? And you're going to leave and it's a little bit dark and you go to step, oh, I have to watch that now. Was that the wine? Or, you know, that kind of feeling. Like just, I'm not unsteady on my feet. I'm just light on my feet, right? That's what happens to me twice a day. But it's controlled, because when I vape, see, most stoners, they'll take a joint and they'll go, and they'll smoke the whole thing in 5 minutes. Well, they're going to be blasted out of their minds for hours. When I vape with my vaporizer, I load it up specifically with my brand of medicine, and I vape, then I go sit down for 10 minutes, and I never get high. So I will do 9 vapes, and I never get high because I space it out. The pain control is just off the hook. Within 10 seconds, my pain starts peeling away. Within 10 seconds. And think about all the applications it is you can have for people with cancer going through chemotherapy. They vomit 70 times a day. And most of them, if you're vomiting 70 times a day, how much nutrition are you going to keep in their stomach? None, 0. If you can't keep nutrition on your stomach, you're dying, right? I can teach people how to use a vaporizer. They will vomit 0. And they will eat. That's half the battle. At the same time, the THC...
ways besides vaping. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
You know, there is, I'd like to mention that not every flower that you get is loaded with THC. You can actually get CBD bud, where you won't have euphoria whatsoever. It will just target the pain. And you can get CBD oil, which will do the same thing. You just, with the counter off, you just put it in your mouth and that's it. You can go and you drive. That you don't have to worry about. You won't get a high whatsoever.
Yeah.
It just goes after your pain. The THC is better used at nighttime when the brain is thinking about the pain that you're in, because you're not active anymore. The brain's going, okay, I'm in a lot of pain. Where before, throughout the day, you were busy, you didn't really notice it as much. So that's usually when you want to do a THC product, is at night.
Yep, when you're not driving. Because trust me, if somebody says, Rick, I can't, well, a few people have come up to me and say, Rick, I can't sleep, that doesn't last long. That excuse doesn't last long. Let me take you down to the Compassion Club. Okay, can you sleep now? Yes.
Yep.
I've never seen it not work, and I will tell you something. I've got 106 half-hour podcasts, 30-minute podcasts. That's 53 hours of people, doctors, specialized in cannabis, talking about how they use cannabis. There's 1,000,001 ways to use it, and it's safe. Like CBD, perfectly safe. You could take CBD all day. You could even vape CBD. You put it in edibles. You put it in tincture. You put it in sore muscle rub. It's crazy. You can drop CBD on your vaping when you're vaping cannabis. It's any place that's edible or drinkable as well.
So is it something that can be used sporadically, or does it have to be used continuously?
If you're in,
say for myself, I'm not in chronic pain or constant pain, but there are days where, and I can't take Advil or anything like that. So
cannabis works best if you use it as a lifestyle medicine, and I'll tell you why. Because it improves all areas of your life. It improves your breathing. It takes pressure. When I go for an eye exam, Dr. Tadros, he always says, "Let's see, my friend, what medication you're on?" "Oh, medical cannabis. See you next year." Because he knows. He told me, he said, cannabis lowers the pressure on the optic nerve, right? So I will never have to be worried about a lot of pressure on my optic nerve because I use so many layers of cannabis, so many layers of cannabinoids, and it's a lot of fun to do. And my classes are just going to be so much fun. Well, it's cannabis, right? I'm going to be titrating people. We're going to give 3 drops to people, wait an hour, see where their pain's at. Then another 3 drops, wait an hour, see where their pain's at. Then another 3 drops of the tincture for an hour and see where their pain's at. And then if they're really stubborn, if they say, "This stuff hasn't even hit me," well, here's some Rick Simpson oil. Go home and take it before you go to bed, right? My only job on this planet right now is taking away pain and helping you sleep. That's it. And cannabis is the medicine to do it. It's just incredible.